I can't buy the air I breathe. I can't buy the trees. I can't buy the deepest seas. But it don't matter, 'cause they're there for free.
Hello and welcome to Around the World in 88 Tales. I'm here at the RAM Museum, the Royal Albert Memorial Museum in Exeter, and the project we're meeting storytellers from many different parts of the world. And today I'm so excited to meet a good friend and storyteller, Simona Stambazzi in Italy. Hi, Simona.
Hi, David. Hi, everybody.
How are you?
I'm good. Nervous to be here, but good.
Oh, it's great to see you. It's great to see you. And what's going to happen, I'm going to show an artifact from the museum. I'll tell a story and then ask if you would like to tell a story. And if you're joining us on Facebook Live, please tell us your name and where you are, and you can join in with the storytelling and comment in the chat. So Simona, before we begin, please tell us about yourself as a storyteller and what you do.
Okay, so hi, I'm Simona, and I'm an English teacher, and I started telling stories about less than a year ago, with David as my teacher and as my storytelling guru. And I love telling stories to my students and also outside of the class. And I'm excited and honored to be here doing this project, as I think it's a wonderful project to sponsor storytelling, different cultures and history all in one. And it's nice to be part of this international group of storytellers.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. It's wonderful that you're here with us. So the artifact that I'm going to introduce you to, I'm just saying hello to Maya Clark. Welcome, Maya. Is a pot. And here it is. This is a replica. It's not the actual pot. That would be too valuable for me to be holding. But this is a replica of an Iron Age pot. So pots like this were being made and used in this part of England 2,000 years ago and before. So right through to when the Romans founded the city of Exeter, pots like this were found that were being used in many places. And this, it could be called a pot or a jar because it's quite small. You can call it a pot or a jar. So I'm going to set this jar here so we can see it. Yeah. And I'm going to tell a story. A story that comes from the Middle East, a story that was collected by Idris Shah, and a story that's been told for hundreds of years. Kanya Makan. There was and there was not a young woman, and her name was Jayda, and Jayda was poor, and she had suffered a lot of ill fortune. She had no good luck in her life. One day she was walking down the road carrying a basket on her arm, and she saw in a tree a bee's nest, but the bees had left, leaving sweet and sticky honey dripping. She thought to herself, if I climb into the tree and gather the honey, then I can sell it in the market, and so I can live. So Jayda went back to her home, and she found a small jar like this. And she brought the jar to the tree, and carefully she climbed and she filled the jar with the delicious and sweet honey. The reason for her misfortune was that she was followed by a jinn, an evil spirit. And the jinn saw her gathering the honey and said to himself, I'll soon put pay to this. And the Jinn transformed himself into a branch of the tree and swung back and forth in the wind, knocking the jar from Jayda's hands. And she dropped it to the ground where it broke. When Jayda climbed down from the tree, the honey was seeping into the ground. Oh. Jayda could see ants coming to the honey. She said to herself, something good might come out of this. She put her basket on her arm and she continued walking along the path. Ahead of her in the distance, she saw a rider on horseback. The rider was coming towards her, galloping fast as the wind. He was carrying a big stick in his hand, and as he came closer, he struck a tree with his stick. Then he rode on and passed Jayda and was gone. When Jayda reached that tree, she found that it was a mulberry tree, and all of the sweet, round, fruity mulberries had dropped to the ground. They looked so good and delicious. If I gather these mulberries in my basket, I can sell them in the market, and so I can live. So Jayda got down on her hands and knees and began putting the mulberries carefully into her basket. But you know who was watching her. Yes, that evil Jinn. I'll soon put pay to this. And the Jinn transformed himself into a donkey. Oh. The Jinn came riding towards Jayda. She stroked the donkey's nose, but the donkey rolled over, crushing all of the sweet mulberries in her basket, and then trotted away. Jayda looked at the ruined fruit with the sweet juice seeping into the ground, and there were ants coming again. Something good might come out of this. Jayda had been observed by the queen of the desert city, who was being carried by her servants, riding on top of a litter, sitting on her golden throne. She saw the donkey, everything. She told her servants to stop, to set her down, and she stepped from her golden throne and asked Jayda her story. And when Jayda told her, she said, "Come with me, I will help you." Jayda rode in the golden throne next to the queen of the desert city, all the way to that fine but dry city, a city where there had been no rain and no water flowed, a city where everything was dry. Jayda began to work. The queen helped her. She set up business. She was selling in the market produce. She was selling fine silken fabrics, beautiful perfumes, wonderful spices. She lived in a small wooden house, and she kept her stock at the back of the house. She was doing well. But you know who followed her to that desert city? The evil Jinn. I'll soon put pay to this. And the Jinn transformed himself into a flame and set fire to her wooden house. And soon her house was burning, and Jayda came running out, and she watched the blaze as all of her goods, all of her property was destroyed. There was nothing but ash. But under the ash she found a large flat stone, and Jayda looked and saw ants coming out from between the cracks. I've lost my home, and they have lost theirs. But perhaps something good might come out of this. And with all her strength, Jayda lifted the stone from the ground, and yes, Can you guess? From under the ground came gushing water, and the water flowed through the streets of the city, bringing life and green to the city. And the people of the city gathered and said, Jayda, it was foretold that a young woman would come to our city and restore life. The queen of the desert city came and said, Jayda, it was said that one day a young woman would come who had suffered misfortune and always kept an open heart, a good spirit, and that she would bring water. This is healing water. Jayda, you are the princess of the water of life. You will live on here forever, and any young woman who has suffered misfortune who comes to this city will live forever because of you. And as far as I know, Jayda lives there still, protected by that water from the evil spirit, the evil jinn. She is Jayda, the princess of the water of life. A story, a beautiful story from the Middle East. And thank you for the comments that I'm seeing coming in on the Facebook Live. Please do tell us who you are and where you are. Vera is here from Brazil and so happy to be with us. Hi Maya. Not many pronounce your name right. What a beautiful story. I could see and feel everything, she says. Hi Chiara. Chiara Rizzo from Milan. I think you know Chiara, don't you, Simona?
My colleague.
Oh, thank you for listening to the story, Simona.
Thank you for telling it. It was very, very nice to hear. And I had never heard that story.
Really?
Yes.
So, Simona, here is this small pot, this jar, this earthenware jar. It's a replica from jars that would have been used a couple of thousand years ago in these parts. Is there a story that you would like to tell?
Yes, there is a story. And actually, the pot is not the only thing in common with your story. Because you talked about misfortune, and my story is about a woman who always thinks about the bright side of things and sees everything as positive. And this story comes from England, particularly Northumberland, and it's called the Hedley Kow. And for those who do not know what the Hedley Kow is, the Hedley Kow is a shape-shifting trickster. So we'll see it in the story. And there's a little refrain in the story. So if you want to join in, please feel free to join in. And also who's listening, I know we cannot see you, but do join in wherever you are. And this is the story. Long, long ago, an old and poor woman was walking home after a long day of work. She was tired, but she looked as cheerful as ever, as if there were no worries at all in the world. And she walked on a path when suddenly she saw something in front of her. "What's this?" she asked. And she looked closer and, oh my, what have I seen? I can't believe how lucky I've been, she exclaimed. In front of her stood a big black pot with a lid. This is exactly what I needed. Whomever abandoned this? Even if it might be cracked, this is perfect for my flowers at home. So, not believing her luck, she grabbed the lid, she looked inside and, oh my, what have I seen? I can't believe how lucky I've been, she exclaimed, because inside the pot was full of gold coins. My working days are done, she exclaimed. With these gold coins, I can live a wealthy and comfortable life for all my days. And I can still have enough to have my family and friends. Oh, I can't believe my luck. So she took her shawl from her shoulders, she tied it to the pot, and she started to drag it home. And she dragged it, and she dragged it, and she dragged it, and she thought of all the amazing things she could do with all those gold coins. And she dragged it, and she dragged it, and she dragged it, and it was heavy. Well, just a few minutes. I'll just sit down on the grass. There's no rush to go back home. So she sat on the grass, and not believing her luck, she decided to have another look inside the pot. So she grabbed the lid, she looked inside, and are you ready, David?
Oh my, oh my.
What have
I
seen?
seen? I
can't
believe how lucky I've been.
Because inside the pot, the gold coins had transformed into a lump of silver. Silver is way better than gold. With this lump of silver, I can make a lot of silver coins and still live a comfortable life with plenty more to give to my family and friends. It's not gold, but it's way better. So I won't have the worry that somebody would come into my house to steal the money. This is way better. So she took the shawl once again and she started to drag it home. And she dragged it and she dragged it and she dragged it and she thought of all the great things she would do with all those silver coins. And she dragged it and she dragged it and she dragged it and it was heavy. Just a couple of minutes more, she said. She sat on the grass and she decided to have another look inside the pot. So she took the lid, she opened it and
oh my, oh my, what have I seen? I can't believe how lucky I've been.
She exclaimed, because inside the pot, the lump of silver had transformed into a lump of iron. Iron is way better than silver and gold. With this lump of iron, I can make a lot of iron coins and live a comfortable life. There won't be much to give to my family and friends, but it's still fine. And I can store the iron coins in my fireplace. So she took her shawl and she started to drag the pot back home again. And she dragged it and she dragged it and she dragged it. And she thought of all the nice things she could do with all those iron coins. And she dragged it and she dragged it and she dragged it. And it was heavy. Well, one last break. I'm almost home. I'll just sit for another couple of minutes. So she sat on the grass and she looked at the pot and oh my.
What have I seen? I can't believe how lucky I've been.
She explained, because now the pot had transformed into a big black stone. This stone is perfect to keep my front door open. I've never told anybody that I needed a stone like this. How lucky I am! This is way better than gold, silver, and iron. I can still work after all, it's fine. But this stone, it's perfect. So she took the shawl once more and she started to drag the stone home. And she dragged it and she dragged it and she dragged it. And she thought of how lovely that would look in front of her front door. And she dragged it and she dragged it and she dragged it. And she had almost reached her house when suddenly the stone didn't feel heavy anymore. So she looked back and, oh my, what
have I seen? I can't believe how lucky I've been.
Because in front of her, the stone was transforming into the Hedley Kow that, grinning and laughing, ran away from her. The old woman entered her house, sat in front of her fireplace and thought about how lucky she had been to have seen the Hedley Kow with her own eyes.
Fantastic. Fantastic. The Hedley Kow. I love that story. And that's an English story, right?
Yes, indeed, from Northumberland.
From Northumberland. You know, I've read that story before, but I think it's the first time someone's told it to me. And you told it to me so brilliantly. And I love this idea of this woman who's just delighted and lucky to something to get less and less value until, oh, I'm so lucky I saw the Hedley Kow, this shape-shifting. And you're right. It's very similar to the story of Jayda, who always looks on the bright side.
Yes, exactly.
Fantastic. Wow. There's people commenting. Chiara saying, great story, incredibly told. Luisa Palestra, great story, Simona. People are really enjoying the story as you tell it. And there's a little delay on Facebook, so no doubt more comments will come in, and you can comment even after this when you're watching the recording. You can comment if you're watching it on YouTube, and you can tell stories as well, inspired by the pot or the jar. Wow, what's inside? Fantastic. Okay, well, Simona, all the way from Monza in Italy, thank you so much for joining us and bringing us that wonderful story.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a great pleasure.
Yes. You're a great storyteller, says Ingrid Alexandra Morales. Fantastic. And goodbye, Simona. Thank you for coming to Around the World in 88 Tales.
Bye. Bye-bye.
The trees, I can't buy the deepest seas, but it don't matter, 'cause they're there for free.